There are several topics today: the preposition in, the dative case, and the verb form war. At first, this might sound like a pretty big variety of topics, but you will be making a lot of sentences that deal with all of these grammatical principles all at once, so it makes sense to discuss them together. First of all, you already know a little bit about the preposition in. So far, you've used it mostly with nouns in the accusative case, and when you do this, the preposition will mean to, as in ins Kino, to the movies. However, in is what is known as a two-way preposition. It can also go with nouns in the dative case, and when it does, it will change its meaning and become in or at. Here's how this will look with masculine nouns. If we use the preposition in the accusative case with a masculine noun, we'd say in den for to the, or in einen for to a. For example, we could say, Ich bin in den Supermarkt gegangen. I went to the supermarket. Or, Ich bin in einen Schreibwarenladen gegangen. I went to an office supply store. However, when we use in with the dative case, it will change its meaning and become in or at. The dative case options for masculine nouns are in dem and in einem. However, in dem contracts to im. So here's how this might sound when using in the dative case. Ich habe gestern Fisch im Supermarkt gekauft. Yesterday I bought fish at the supermarket. Notice we wouldn't say to the supermarket, we're saying at the supermarket because of the dative case. Or, ich war in einem Schreibwarenladen. I was in an office supply store. The same principles apply to feminine nouns, though obviously the articles in the accusative and dative cases will be different. The accusative case options with feminine, in other words the ones where the preposition will mean to, are in die and in eine with feminine nouns. For instance, willst du in die Stadt gehen? Or, ich muss in eine Bäckerei gehen. So, do you want to go to the city? I have to go to a bakery. In the dative case, the feminine definite article is der, and the feminine indefinite article is einer. Notice the R on the end of both of those. Once again, in will mean in or at when used with the dative case. For example, we could say, Nein, ich war gestern in der Stadt. No, I was in the city yesterday. Or, mein Vater arbeitet in einer Bäckerei. My father works in a bakery. Not to a bakery, in a bakery this time. Same thing with neuter nouns. In das is the option for to the, and in ein is the option for to a. However, in das also takes a contraction and becomes ins, as in ins Kino, or ins Konzert, or ins Café. For example, we could say something like this. Wir gehen heute Abend ins Kino. We're going to the movies this evening. Willst du in ein Café gehen? Do you want to go to a cafe? When used in the dative case, the neuter articles are the same as the masculine ones, dem and einem. And again, as it did in the masculine example, in dem will contract to im. We take the first letter of in, the last letter of dem, and form the contraction im. Here's how this would sound in context. Wir waren letztes Wochenende im Kino. We were at the movies last weekend. Ich möchte in einem Café essen. I would like to eat in a cafe. And notice, we're saying in, not to, because we're using the dative case. Finally, with plural nouns, there is no indefinite article to worry about. We can't say a with a plural noun. So our only option is in die, which means to the, as in this sentence. Ich fliege heute in die USA. I'm flying to the United States today. With plural nouns in the dative case, the definite article is den. So we will use the phrase in den to mean in the or at the with a plural noun. For example, we could say Ich wohne in den USA. Because in means different things depending on the case you use for the noun following it, it is very easy to make mistakes with this. So let's take a look at some typical mistakes. Keep in mind as you see these that all of these sentences are wrong on purpose. So try pausing the video and see if you can figure out both why they are wrong and what you should do to fix them. If you need a hint, here it is. Just look at the phrase with in. Think about what case the noun that follows it is in. If it's in the accusative case, if that noun is in the accusative case, in will mean to. If the noun is in the dative case, in will mean in or at. So what you need to check is, does that meaning match the rest of the sentence? In the first sentence as it's written, we're saying, I'm going at the movie theater, because kino has been used in the dative case. But that doesn't match the concept of going, so we need to change im to the accusative case option, ins, which now means to. In the second sentence, the problem is reversed. I am to the swimming pool doesn't work, but changing from accusative case to dative case will fix that. Now the sentence means I am in the swimming pool. Much better. Now, you might see the verb swim in the next sentence and assume that to is a logical thing to use with swimming, because you can swim to places. It might be sometimes, but not in this sentence. I swam to the swimming pool is probably not what we meant. It's more likely that we meant I swam at the swimming pool, or in the swimming pool, which means we need to use the dative case with that one. In the fourth one, we're saying I buy meat to the butcher shop. We mean at, so change the case from accusative to dative, and we're fine. The last sentence has the same problem, just backwards. We said at when we meant to, so we changed to the accusative case to solve the problem. Instead of saying, we go at the bakery, we are now saying, we go to the bakery. And keep in mind with all of these that we're accounting for the gender of the noun as well, not just the case. Now, there are a couple important exceptions. People, like the Becca or Metzger. Literally, the preposition in implies entering or being inside of. You can be inside a movie theater, you can go into a bank, you can go into a butcher shop. But please don't buy your bread inside the baker, or get your cold cuts inside the butcher. That's just not sanitary. So, if you said you were going to the bakers or to the butchers, using Becca or Metzger, you might be tempted to use indien, but that won't work with people. Instead, use the word zum. Similarly, if you want to say at the bakers or at the butchers, you can't use im. Remember, that's a health code violation. Instead, use beim. And by the way, the m on the end of zu and bei is that same dative case masculine m that was on the end of dem or einem. Zu and bei are prepositions that always take the dative case, but that's a topic for another video. What is a topic for this video is the verb form war. This is the past tense form of the verb sein, meaning to be. So war basically means was, and as you'll notice, it looks pretty similar to the English version. Here are the conjugated forms of war. Notice in the singular forms that there's a nothing st nothing pattern in the singular, similar to a modal verb. So we have ich war, du warst, sie es war, wir waren, ihr wart, sie und sie waren. Now, to link this to the big topic of discussion, compare these two sentences. Ich war ins Kino and ich war im Kino. Notice the accusative case in the first one and the dative case in the second one. Using in with the accusative case would mean to the, and with the dative case it would mean at the. In other words, sentence 1 is incorrect. You really can't use war with in and the accusative case, because you don't say, I was to the movie theater. Instead, you will most often use the dative case after war when saying where you or someone else was. Okay, time to review. Use the accusative case after in if you mean to, but use the dative case after in if you mean in or at. With masculine nouns, your dative case options are im for in or at the, and in einem for in or at a. With feminine nouns, you'd use in der for in or at the, and in einer for in or at a. The options for neuter nouns are the same as for masculine nouns, im or in einem. And the option for plural nouns is in den for in the. Now, you can use in with a lot of locations, but not when that location is a person, like the baker or butcher or a friend's house. Instead, say beim Bäcker or beim Metzger. Or if it's a friend, bei Susi, bei Sandra. Finally, war is the past tense form of sein, equivalent to the English word was, and you will often use this with the dative case to say where someone was.